What's up, everyone? In today's video, I'll give you my training background and tell you how I eventually got into doing both running and practicing Muay Thai. So, when I was younger, I started practicing different kinds of martial arts such as Shaolin, Wing Chun, and Jiu-Jitsu, but I didn't find any of them to be so suitable for me. So, but I was still interested in finding something that was purely self-defense. And eventually I got into Krav Maga. For those of you who don't know, Krav Maga is a self-defense developed originally by Israel. And I practiced this in total for around 6.5 years and even earned a grading level called P4, which is like intermediate and advanced level. But afterward, the club that I was practiced at was put on hold, so I eventually switched to practicing Thai boxing in 2019. I practiced for 1 year, but then the corona came during 2020, and to avoid getting because of the corona restriction and all of that stuff, I decided to take a break from Thai boxing. Now, I originally hated running. I found that to be very boring. But I got inspired by following some people like David Goggins, James Iron Cowboy Lawrence, and Tim Grover, who all of them talk about mental toughness and about that. And when I followed them, I realized that you don't actually need to enjoy running to start running. You can use this as a way to practice your mental toughness. And since I didn't, and since I couldn't even practice Thai boxing anymore, I decided now it's the best time to start doing running. The beginning was very slow. I started to first running like 2 kilometers and 5 kilometers, and even those short distances were very exhausting and boring. But slowly I started ramping up. So I started challenging myself and tell myself I'll be very happy if I can run 10 kilometers in my entire life. And suddenly I actually hit like how to say, a highlight. I actually managed to run my first 10 kilometers and was very happy about it. But then I started to ask myself, what is actually my limit? So 2 weeks after running my first 10 kilometers, I then started ramping up to 20 kilometers. And then a couple of weeks later, I started running up to 30 kilometers. And eventually I told myself, if I manage to run over 40 kilometers, I will sign up for a marathon. So all of a sudden, I actually ran and managed to exceed 40 kilometers. And I even remember when I was running that, it was very tough and it was exhausting. But I remember David Goggins talking about his 40% rule and how to remove the governor. And when you think that you only managed to, when you think you've reached your mental capacity, you have only reached up to 40% of your true capacity. And eventually I managed to run over 40 kilometers. So I signed up for a full marathon here in Gothenburg, Sweden, where I live. And eventually, by the end of 2020, I managed to run my first ultra distance, which was 50 kilometers. Now you might not say it's not that much compared to the difference is not much to compare to a regular marathon, but I still saw it as a highlight for me. So in 2021, I started to keep running as usual, and and I kept having my long distance runs on Saturdays where I run like around 30 kilometers. And in summer 2021, I actually started running even higher than that. I started running 60 kilometers. And in the fall, same year, I reached up to over 70 kilometers. And by that time, and in that year, I actually started to going back to Thai boxing as well. So in parallel, I practiced both Thai boxing and running. And in parallel, while I practiced running, I then started to run do my first half marathon race here in Gothenburg, which is called Göteborgsvarvet. And I managed to set the time of 1 hours 39 minutes and 2 seconds, which I was very happy about, because for me, when it comes to training, I didn't think so much about time. Running for me was a way to build up my mental toughness. And also another reason why I started doing running was also because I did some reading about I read some health benefits with running, except for weight loss and stuff, and all stuff like that. Running was actually a good way to work as a antidepressive medicine, and it's also a way to make your brain younger. Now, I'm not an expert in that, but I read it somewhere, which also motivated me to keep running again. And I wasn't actually so interested in competing in Thai boxing, but I still went and practiced anyway. But then one of my trainer asked me if I didn't think about doing some competition, which I actually didn't, because I was mostly interested in doing pure self-defense, and Thai boxing was a way for me to maintain my strength, my punches and kicks. But I actually started thinking, if I want to actually develop myself and develop my Thai boxing skills and my punches and kicks and learn how to actually handle pressure, I thought signing up for competitions was actually a very good idea. So I signed up for my first Muay Thai competition on amateur level, which is now called E-class, I think. And that's like the lowest amateur level. And when I went there, I was very nervous, and unfortunately I lost that fight. But I still find it like as a valuable lesson to learn. And after 2022, I also ran my first race in so-called Lidingöloppet, which is a terrain race here in near Stockholm, a 30 kilometers race where we run in terrain. And 2023, I went to Stockholm to run my very first marathon. I wasn't so well prepared for that race, as during a Thai boxing session, I hurt my left leg so badly, so I couldn't run for several months. But then I still went for it anyway. For when I only practiced for maybe 1 or 2 months before the race. And it was very tough, much tougher than I expected. But I eventually completed the marathon race around 3 hours 46 minutes and 51 seconds, I think. Now fast forward, I have run 6 marathons. Four of them were the Stockholm Marathon, which I have run since 2023. I also ran the New York Marathon in 2023. Very awesome, very, very cool marathon, and my first time running outside of Sweden. And I also ran Göteborgsvarvet's marathon on that year as well, 2023. And I've also run 5 half marathon races. All of them are Göteborgsvarvet here in Gothenburg. And I've also run Lidingöloppet. I think I've run it 4 times now. And this year will be my 5th time, which I'm actually preparing for right now. And I've also run Mustaschmilen, but which is only 10 kilometers. For now, what I will do is actually I will focus more on Thai boxing, and we focus more on competing in Thai boxing. So running races is actually I've only signed up for running the Göteborgsvarvet next year. So no, there are no more races planned for me right now. But you never know what happens in the future. All right, that's the kind of my summary of my training progress, my background, and what my plan is for the future. See you on the next video.